Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Week Ahead News Show with me, Liam, my good friend Tommy.
Hello, everybody. Good to be back.
It's episode 52, good number. It's currently March 2nd. We are in March now, almost springtime, 2026. Hope everyone's having a great week and had a good Monday. A little cold this morning and today, but going to get warmer throughout the week. So that's better. It's going to rain a lot throughout this week, so that's going to suck. Make sure to like, subscribe, and ring that bell in the bottom right if you want to be notified whenever we go live. Our Facebook's also in the description. For whenever we go live, we post on there as well, midday or before the show. On to the weather. We have weather below us, stocks above us for today. Today for weather, we had a high of 42, low of 16, partly cloudy. Tomorrow, we have a 100% chance of rain and sleet, high of 48, low of 30. Wednesday, 55% chance of rain, 52 and 37. Thursday, 90% chance of rain, 59-46. Friday, 70% chance of rain, 67-53. Saturday, 55% chance of rain. Getting warmer now, 72. Low of 58. Holy crap. Saturday's going to be beautiful. Rain's going to suck. Sunday, hopefully not too humid. High of 59, low of 48, 45%. Next Monday, sunny, 62-43. We're almost getting there, guys. Our moon is currently in waxing gibbous. 100% illumination, beautiful moon tonight. Maybe go on a walk after this, quick walk after this. Next moon set is at 6:54 a.m. Next full moon's in a day. Be careful, guys. The werewolves will be out tomorrow. Make sure you got your shotties ready. Humidity's at 67%. Not too humid, but a little bit. First light today was at 6:27 a.m. Sunrise today's at 6:55 a.m. Sunset today was at 6:15 p.m. Last light at 6:42 p.m. 11 hours and 19 minutes of daylight. So already getting more daylight than the week before. Good to see. Love to see that. Alright, Tommy will be going into the stocks for the last 5 days of the last week. It looks like we have minor gains for today, and the Dow is in the red, but the rest were like very minor gains. So, go on, Tom.
Yeah, I had the daily stocks also pulled up. It's kind of surprising to see that minor gains, sort of everything staying the same on the daily level. Given the war, but over the last 5 days, minor gains as well. Dow was up 36 points. S&P 500 was up 35 points. Nasdaq was up 72 points. So that's all around 0.5% for all of them.
I know it's interesting, Tom, but about the war and stuff going up, we might need to do like gas prices week by week, because gas prices for like the last month, 2 months, they were getting below $2 for the cheap gas.
Yeah.
And now it's at like $2.80. I get the expensive gas. It was like $4 to $4.50. So sweet Jesus, God bless. Gas went up a lot, especially today, when stuff started trading with everything going on. So that'd be interesting. Maybe we'll have to add that. Because gas has gone up, so maybe that's why stocks are evening out, because don't make oil money, and then the tariffs, going away for right now. But sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, I think that'd be a very good thing to do. About 1/5 of the world's oil passes through the Strait of Hormuz, which is by Iran, and is currently trying to be shut down by the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. So, if shipping is affected in the Strait of Hormuz, definitely, I think we'd see some gas prices going up and up and up.
Yeah, but I wouldn't like that. Not too good. But it happens. We'll have to see. I'm going to go right into a funny topic, and we'll go into more international topics here in a bit. A funny topic for today is about Kash Patel partying at, basically, this is all over trending, for men's Olympic team, and then Trump joking at the women's Olympic team, probably because he was salty they didn't want to see him. First, we have FBI Director Kash Patel's locker room celebration after the U.S. men's team won gold of the 2026 Winter Olympics by beating Canada in a dramatic overtime finish. This is right after, too. Video clips from the locker room went viral showing Kasper Patel celebrating with the players, including him drinking beer, joking around with athletes, and generally joining the victory, which fueled widespread reaction online. National Security Optics versus Party Energy. And he was a podcaster, so that's kind of funny. Sitting FBI director appeared to be part of a celebration rather than focused on official duties. Maybe he's not reading them, documents. And also that means we had to fly him and his girlfriend out there probably for like a whole week to go party during this whole thing. Contrasted to criticism from both former law enforcement officials and the public. Critics argued that the visuals set the wrong message about the Brewers' professionalism. Kind of like what I said before, he's getting criticism for the use of government travel, whether about FBI resources were used tied to personal celebrations rather than strictly for official security duties at the Olympics, and viral humor, people making fun of them. How do you feel about that one, Tom? We'll talk about that real quick if we go on to the second one.
With Kash Patel at the Olympics.
Yeah.
Yeah, listen. So, I'm just surprised that a high-ranking member of the executive branch has any time to be doing this. Number one, like,
If it was for one in LA, it would make sense if it was on home soil, but he's in Italy. Like what?
yeah, he's on another continent with his girlfriend. He took a private jet over there, and the FBI is quite literally it's a domestic law enforcement agency. That's why they're not the Central Intelligence Agency. That's a very 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 big distinction. So why does the FBI director need to be at the Olympics? I guess I could entertain arguments. That he's representing the U.S. government or whatever. I don't want Kash Patel representing much of anything.
Yeah. Why was he drinking beer then? That's crazy.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. So even if I were to, I'm not, but even if I were to give him the benefit of the doubt, why is he hanging out, drinking beer? It just it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. It strikes me that Donald Trump just likes to employ college party boys. He's got Pete Hegseth in the Department of War. Now that he's renamed that too, and he's got Kash Patel as the head of the FBI. So maybe they should look at employing like the CEOs of like Miller Lite or something to make that the head of the NSA or something.
Agreed. And like, who would want to do that? Like, I was like, think about this, Tom. If I was on that team and I walked into the locker room and there's this director of the FBI, I'm walking right out. I'm like, what's going on? I'm good, bro. I don't want him around here. That's just weird. So it blows my mind. It's a waste of money.
Who wants to get drunk with
an FBI agent?
Top law enforcement.
Huh?
Hey, let's go tear up the town with my FBI friends.
Something you never hear, bro. I'll be checking that dude for a wire. I'll be like, take off your shirt real quick. Before you come in our locker room, take off your shirt, buddy. Oh man, that'd be funny. All right, and then number 2 is about Trump's women's team joke, and the State of the Union invite. On the same day as the celebration footage with Kash Patel, another clip from inside the locker room caught attention during the celebratory victory. Former President Donald Trump phoned in to congratulate the men's team and also the president, praising their efforts, and he invited the team to the upcoming State of the Union address, and then added a remark about the U.S. women's hockey team, which also had just won gold. The joke itself, Trump quipped that he would have invited the women's team as well, suggesting that he might be impeached if he didn't. The men's team's membership in the locker room laughed at a comment, which immediately shared widely on X and formerly Twitter and other platforms. Backlash and interpretation. Many observers interpreted the joke as diminishing the women's achievement. Coming on the heels of an intense gold medal performance, the women's team ultimately declined the State of the Union invitation. And that was kind of crazy. Tommy's going to talk about this, but he invited like all these people to come in during the State of the Union, so it's interesting. Citing prior commitments with further fueled discussion about the initial remark. Reactions from athletes. U.S. women's captain Hillary Knight publicly described the joke as distasteful and said it would risk overshadowing the women's historical win, emphasizing that their success should stand on its own. Some of the men's team squad later suggested that they should have reacted differently, stressing respect for women's teammates' accomplishments and expressing pride in both the team's victories. So it's interesting how that one's coming out too, and it kind of shows us how Trump is and how a lot of these like men are. I mean, if they're already partying with all these Trump officials, you just kind of see what side they're taking. But yeah, I should definitely say that because like to me, like the women's one's actually bigger than the men's one too. Just for a lot of the things that happen for the women, like the first black woman scoring a goal, winning goal, just being on the team. And it was a while for them to win as well. And unlike for men, a lot of times, the NHL stood for 16 years. They didn't allow players into the Olympics. They didn't want them getting hurt. But women didn't have that, so they still played. So there's always different things for each side. The men haven't won since the 80s a lot of times because of that holdout from NHL players. So it kind of sucks, but that's just how it works in the Olympics. And to me, like I said, both of them are good. So kind of shows us how Trump is. He always just likes taking jabs and making jokes. And sometimes you just have to make a good phone call, and that's it. Go on, Tom. You're good.
This is the president of the United States here, and our president, unfortunately, he said he likes to grab women by the pussy. He said that. He was found liable for sexual assault. He has patterns and patterns and patterns and patterns and patterns and patterns of being a despicable man when it comes to women. So why is anybody surprised that he picks up the phone and starts, saying this sexist bullshit to the hockey team? It just shows that we have a man in office right now that fundamentally lacks the character to be president of the United States, and it's disgusting. It is disgusting. And it is absolutely, it undermines, the achievements of the women's hockey team. Absolutely. Absolutely it does, but Donald Trump, I'm 100% sure that he does not care at all about the women's hockey team. And I think that's reflected in, his actions. So, you know, I guess I'm not shocked that Donald Trump is once again proving that he is in fact a pig.
Agreed. Oh, sorry, I hit my mic. And I'm ready to go into National Topic 1. I also see Wyatt commented, and I see in your Wyatt. Hope you're having a good night. National Topic 1 is DOJ charging 30 more people for their roles in anti-ICE protests at Minnesota church. We saw this with, I think it was Don Lemon. He got charged, I think 2 months ago for doing this, and they're charging more people. On Friday, February 27th, 2026, the U.S. Department of Justice unsealed a superseding federal indictment charging 30 additional people for their alleged roles in January's anti-immigration and customs enforcement ICE protests that disrupted several churches in the cities of St. Paul, Minnesota. That brings the total number of defendants in the case to 39 people now facing federal charges. Attorney General Pam Bondi announced action on social media saying that 25 of the 30 newly charged people have already been arrested, and more arrests were expected. Like I said, it happened January 18th when a group of demonstrators entered City's church during a Sunday service, chanting slogans like ICE out and expressing oppositions to U.S. immigration enforcement actions. They were motivated by local anger and recent immigration enforcement operations, including fatal shooting of Renee Good by an ICE officer earlier that month. Protesters believe that a pastor at the church was also an ICE field director. A claim that drew them into the worship service. The demonstration was widely described as federal forces as chaotic and disruptive to religious worship. More charges are being filed. All 39 people are now charged of allegations of conspiracy against the rights of religious worship and interfering with religious freedoms under federal law, religious freedom rights. Federal prosecutors allege that a protest was a coordinated takeover-style attack that intimidated worshippers, including families and children, that the service interrupted. AG Pam Bondi, she always be lying, stressed that attacking a house of worship will be prosecuted, saying it undermines the Constitution's protection of religious practice. We talked about it before. Don Lemon, an independent reporter as well, Georgia Fort, and civil rights attorney Nikema Livy Armstrong, all who pleaded not guilty. Protest organizers and also other individuals have also been named who were not named before. A lot of the supporters of the protests argued they were exercising First Amendment rights to oppose immigration enforcement and highlight community grievances. Critics, including church officials and conservative leaders, say that for disruption across legal lines by intimidating worshippers. Some civil rights attorneys have questions for use of a statute's change. Nothing that laws like the FACE Act, often used to protect access to reproductive health clinics, have rarely been applied to house of worship disruptions in the past. One church member filed a federal lawsuit against some of her protesters, alleging that it caused her emotional distress and interference with her ability to worship. We kind of talked about before. A lot of this is coming back from Renee Good and Alex Perry shootings, and people being upset by that. And I like, it's interesting to me because like we talked about before, you do have to be smart before you're protesting, especially being in right of ways and legal places. So like going in a church might not be the smartest thing. I get why some people do it in this case, especially if they thought that a pastor was working with ICE, and a lot of these pastors in Minnesota have been caught working with ICE. But personally, I would say the stage a really good protest on the outside, but that's just me. You know what I mean? In the right of way, you don't have to like go inside. Now also charging people for that's kind of crazy because like I bet this doesn't happen too often, federally too. So I don't know too much about the law, but that's just me. Yeah.
Yes, I could talk about this a little bit. So, what's interesting about this case is that they're using this FACE Act. Okay, so this FACE Act, which criminalizes, disrupting worship. Okay, so there seems to be very, very many questions on the constitutionality of the FACE Act, as applied to a situation like this, versus in a situation where it's stopping people from protesting outside of an abortion clinic or something, or impeding people from getting into a Planned Parenthood type situation. So there's constitutional questions if a law like this applied to people like this is even valid. But what's crazy, and I'm not a lawyer. I have a JD. I have a constitutional law certificate. But what's crazy about this is they could just charge the people with trespassing. Okay. Um, if I I don't have, a First Amendment right to go into someone's house and yell. Okay? Someone can call the cops, and they're not arresting me for my speech. They're arresting me because I trespassed. Okay? So, but
Yep.
the Trump
Yeah.
administration is using this law, okay? Maybe trying to set like a legal precedent or something, that enhances like uh, free exercise rights at the expense of First Amendment rights. Maybe that's what they're going. And we are fundamentally just dealing with draconian people here.
Yeah.
So listen. So legally, that's what's kind of interesting about it. Um, One thing I'd also like to add is the right that they just say, oh, they're disrupting a church, they're disrupting a church, they're disrupting a church. Um, but they often fail to mention that the fact that this specific church that they were protesting and that Don Lemon was doing his job reporting on was the ICE. The pastor was an ICE agent cooperating with with ICE. So it's not like it's portrayed that like, oh, just a bunch of blue-haired leftists just ran into a church. Like that is not what happened. That is not what happened. So
Also,
just
do you think
just
it'd be
um
interesting if they're like shooting themselves in the foot with a conspiracy to like do it? Because like if all they texted and talked with people about before was showing up, and they show up to a protest, and then they walk over there and then they walk into it, like it's kind of hard to say it's premeditated if it wasn't, but I don't know. That might be a hard thing to prove in court.
yeah, I don't know. I have to look specifically, the different texts and stuff like that. But
Mm-hmm.
no, it's definitely interesting, and um it's just an interesting case, and it's definitely um not like I think people should preferably not protest in church. Okay. um but given the specific facts of this case, and the fact that um protesting is allowed to be uncomfortable, flag burning is protected. you
Mm-hmm.
know um so just a complex issue of constitutional law. And certainly um it's misleading that they don't tell people that the pastor was also an ICE agent.
Yeah, agreed. And like it's different because this is more like a private institution, even though they don't pay taxes. It's more holy
Yeah.
place, and I think all places of like religious worship should be protected. We see this in city council meetings a lot, especially right now in Columbus with all the Wexner stuff. So a good example is if you show up, walk in to a city council meeting, you have a sign, and they'll be fine with you just standing there all day and just having your sign. Alexa Wessner's bad. That could be your sign, whatever. But if you're also screaming the entire time, they're gonna kick you out. So like,
Right.
there's certain ways to do it, and like, you know, it makes me think of like, well, if you're standing there not screaming, are you intimidating people? No, but some people might just get intimidated by it. So you do have to be careful about those kind of people too, and kind of like we saw that with BLM protests when they were just walking through streets and people were pointing guns at them through their houses and stuff. So it's crazy. You got to be careful out there. But you definitely have a right to
Yeah.
protest in my eyes. So
Absolutely, and it's one of those core fundamental freedoms. Um, just with a case like this, it's a lot more legally dubious.
And I was thinking, Tom, like, if it was like January 6th where we had walkie talkie, radio, phone call, WhatsApp messages, and audio of them actually talking about it and planning about it, then yeah, charge them with conspiracy. I am fine with that. Like, if they were about to break into a church to protest, charge them with it. I don't care. But I'm betting my bottom dollar it wasn't that actually in depth. You know what I mean? It was just like, oh, we had a problem with this pastor, and they were hanging out outside, and things got heated. If you watch a lot of these videos in Minnesota, a lot of stuff was heated. When there was that conservative guy just getting stuff thrown at him, and you have to be smart like that. Like I said, like just like if you're walking through a neighborhood, um, you sometimes like it's not asking for it, but if you're conservative and you're showing up to a liberal protest, vice versa. You know what I mean? If Charleston was happening and you were like, um, just a black comedian, and you were like, "Well, should I go to Charleston to make fun of them?" Probably not. Probably not. I would not have done that. You'd probably get your ass kicked. Any liberal comedian would have got their ass kicked down there. You know what I mean? When Nazis and Klan members were chanting and not basically protesting on the streets. So you gotta be smart with all that kind of stuff. That's really it for me. Are you
Yeah,
ready to go national
and
too, or you can go quick?
yeah, um, yeah, I'm ready to move on. Why don't I'll do the international one.
Yeah, thank you. I forgot about that. Yeah, thanks, Tom.
Oh,
Let's go to that one.
yeah. Okay, everybody, this is the big one. This is the big one. So we are at war, and I'm gonna kind of go over what has happened, and I'm gonna do something kind of interesting. Is I'm gonna actually sort of lay out the historical context and the facts um, regarding the regime in Iran in a way that Donald Trump has not done because he's a liar. Okay, so first let's start off with what has just occurred over these past several days. On February 28th, the United States and Israel launched a coordinated military attacks against Iran, which its leaders described as a major operation against Iran. So this is a major operation. This is not just a targeted strike. Um, the operation has been described as far broader than a limited strike, with strategic aims that include weakening Iran's regime and military infrastructure. I would say the aim is clearly to not weaken but destroy um, the regime and their military infrastructure. The offensive was carried out jointly by U.S. military and Israeli forces, supported by months of planning and preparation. It represents one of the largest concentrations of American military firepower in the Middle East in decades, and Israel's largest air campaign to date. U.S. and Israeli officials said the goal was to destroy or to significantly degrade Iran's missile capabilities, air defenses, and military forces, and to stop what they described as efforts to build nuclear weapons. President Trump publicly framed the mission as not just military but political, urging Iranians to take over your government and suggesting that strikes could facilitate regime change. Initial strikes include Revolutionary Guard command facilities, air defense systems, missile and drone launch sites, military airfields. One of the first strikes that one of the first targets was reportedly the office of the Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei, and he has been killed. Um, Iran has retaliated with missiles and drones targeting Israel, U.S. military bases in Gulf states, as well as civilian infrastructure in surrounding Gulf state areas. Iranian authorities reported hundreds of casualties, including civilians, widespread damage, and panic spread across cities like Tehran. Reports, not independently verified, allege a girls' school in Manab was hit with many child fatalities. Iran's attack on U.S. bases and missiles have injured personnel and caused regional disruption. There's also some regional escalation going on. Violence has spread beyond Iran and Israel. Missile and drone struck Gulf states, including Bahrain and Saudi Arabia. Global air travel is disrupted, and the situation has triggered broader instability in the region. This isn't on there, but also Israel has resumed its military campaign against Hezbollah and its northern border, which was one of the Iranian proxies. U.S. statement and strategy. President called the operation major combat operations, expressed readiness for a prolonged campaign, noting there's no guarantee of success and uncertainty about what comes next. U.S. military emphasized responsibility to protect bases and manage missile targets. So key takeaways: it's joint offensive. It's a joint offensive by the U.S. and Israel. That is growing into a broader conflict involving other different nations. It's escalating, and sort of the geopolitical implications of this are still yet to be seen. We're going to have to see what's going to come, after the Islamic Republic. Is it going to be another form? Is it going to be something else? It's just too early to say. So that is what has been going on recently. And what no one is telling the American people is that the military action um, taken by the United States was the product of years and years and years of American foreign policy failure in Iran. Um, Back in the day, the Iranians, they had a democracy, and they wanted to nationalize their oil industry. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is true. The British and the MI6 and the CIA, they got together, and they installed the Shah. Okay, they installed the Shah of Iran. Okay, who was way better than what they have now. Okay, but was deeply, deeply, deeply corrupt. And he got rid of the nationalization effort. So that created the atmosphere for the first Ayatollah, for the Iranian Revolution, and that started the whole ball rolling with, obviously the embassy crisis in the 1970s. Um, so we created a political situation that allowed um, radical Islamic terrorists to get into power and to hold office in Iran and continue to grow. So over the years, Iran, they built up a proxy network. They supported Hezbollah in the north of Israel. They supported the Houthis in Yemen attacking Red Sea shipping that had nothing to do with the genocide in Gaza. Um, they supplied bombs that hurt U.S. troops in our war in Iraq, which I was against, but they did hurt U.S. troops. So then you fast forward to the end of the Obama administration, and you had the Iran nuclear deal, which was the peaceful solution to this problem. Because it is a firm belief, at least of mine, that Iran can never be allowed to have nuclear weapons. And that Iran nuclear deal facilitated that. It let them have a civilian energy program, but they were not able to enrich to weapon grades level, and it was subject to international inspection. So Donald Trump, of course, threw that away. He just threw that away. So now we're faced with a situation where the regime in Iran just killed anywhere from 10 to 30,000 of their own people. Their missile capabilities, even before this war started, was significantly degraded from their various conflicts with Israel. And their nuclear program is unknown. It is unknown, the status of the, at least to like me. Like, I don't have a top secret clearance. Okay, like okay. Um, previously we attacked that Iranian nuclear site with bunker busters. It's nobody knows how successful that strike was. It seems probably somewhat likely to me that that there was some remnants of a nuclear program still in existence. So where Donald Trump is an idiot was tearing up that nuclear agreement in his first term. Okay? And what he's also doing right now, which is unforgivable, is he doesn't trust the American people to understand the actual geopolitical situation in Iran. He's just lying. He's just lying. Okay? He's lying because that's just what he does. And he just doesn't that's just what he does. He's fundamentally a liar. And also, um any sort of military operation would have had a military operation like this would likely have to be approved by Congress. As a matter of constitutional law, I don't think if there's an imminent attack on the United States, I don't think the president needs a declaration of war. I don't think the Constitution requires that. But in a case like this, if there was no, like they're saying it was imminent, I would need to see that, I need to see the papers. Um, but certainly any sort of premeditated attack that is not in response to some sort of um, imminent attack, we would need to be approved by Congress. So, listen, I guess all I can say is this: is I don't like how this war is being said to the American people. Like they're just blatantly lying to the American people. They're not going through the constitutional processes. Um, and that is disturbing. I guess I'll just end with this. I hope that our men and women stay safe, that they quickly and effectively complete their mission, and that they do everything within their power to minimize human civilian casualties. And we'll just have to see how this all plays out. Um, is the world a better place without the Ayatollah? The answer is yes. I would say so. I would say the answer is probably yes. Um, but we're gonna have to see. I'm deeply, deeply concerned about this devolving into a situation like Syria, where there's just unended conflict after unended conflict after unended conflict. That's a big, big, big concern of mine. But we'll just have to see. I hope our service members stay safe, and hopefully, at the very least, this is the end of the Iranian nuclear program.
Agreed, Tom.
What do you have to say, Leo?
Agreed. A lot going on. I want to, like you said at the end there, service members stay safe, but so much going on in the past here. And we don't really know what happened with the bunker busters and the nuclear program before, so. And what's interesting, even, the Iranian nuclear deal was good, and it's better than nothing, but even now, we just don't know what they were doing, and it's better than, hey, let's test them once a month and try to catch them doing something. It's very hard to, enrich uranium and then, de-enrich it, you know what I mean, if they're coming to test it, so if you're coming to test it, it's better than nothing. A lot of the missile strikes, killing civilians ain't good, and, the whole conflict, just everyone, and them attacking all of our bases and everything isn't good. We kind of knew that was going to happen. That's probably why we hit a lot of the missile capabilities. But it's going to be more and more going on. We'll keep talking about it. It's kind of sad that, we talked, I think, 2 weeks ago, with a protest and them killing thousands, 10,000 to 30,000 civilians, that's just crazy. Something has to change there. I don't think, killing a man, that's a bad man's good, but they're going to put someone else in his place. We just have to do something, actually get good change there, get them off that theocracy and something a little better.
What I think likely is to happen is that they're going to try to replace the Ayatollah with another Ayatollah, and then we're going to kill that person. Okay?
Yep, cycle.
Eventually, Eventually, they'll get the message, hopefully.
Agreed. And maybe get some change. It might be their own people too uprising. That many people dying just because they're protesting is freaking crazy. Crazy to me.
Yeah.
So.
And it just says so much to me that the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and Iran, granted, there was that hospital that was hit in Iran. That is awful. That is awful. I don't honestly know all the details of it, but Iran specifically intended to hit a hotel like in the Middle East. You know what I mean? So it's like there was a big skyscraper. They set the GPS for their suicide drone to hit the skyscraper.
Yeah.
That's the type of people we're dealing with here. So, listen, hopefully something good comes out of this. But who knows? It's the Middle East.
Yep. It's gonna be fighting. I can go on to local 2 to give you a break, and then you can go on to the national topic 2 you got.
Sounds
Sorry,
good.
national 1. Local 1 though, we have is Warren approved local, basically, kind of dog warden help locally, but really it's gonna be they basically authorize the city officials to enter in new agreements for supplemental animal control services with an eye towards improving responsiveness and capacity. This move comes as discussions have been underway about a funded city dog warden position residents and some council members have advocated for, but the funding is not in place yet. It's allowing the mayor and public safety director to negotiate and contract with a reputable organization. A lot of times, like AWL, American Welfare League, maybe even like a smaller one around there. They have Healthy Hearts and Paws in one. That's a big one. Capable of providing animal control services for up to $30,000 annually, with a 1-year renewable option. Ordinance deliberately does not name any specific provider, giving the city flexibility to select the most suitable partner or contractor, maybe to put out bids. It's not about assigning a specific contractor, so we'll have to see. Jason Koch, former animal control contractor who previously served the city, attended the meeting and voiced their opinions. Despite earlier comments advocating for his reinstatement for dog warden role, city officials and council members stressed that the ordinance does not specifically name or guarantee his return to position. Like I kind of said before, they'll be able to sell it out well. Bid it out. Councilman Michael O'Brien, Democrat at large, explained that the ordinance purpose is to empower cities' leadership to establish an agreement that assists the cities with animal control services rather than tying an agreement to a particular individual. Maybe sometimes this might, like I said, kind of have to contract it. I wonder if they got a grant too. Sometimes if you get grants, you have to do certain things. Like you actually have to bid it out, or like let equal people advertise it out and let the equal people come in and apply. So, very interesting. I think it's a good thing. It's kind of balancing a little bit of liability and local concerns, and we see this in Gerard and Warren a lot too. We have a lot of animal issues, so we're going to keep seeing that issue as we go on. Kind of just because, longer times animals are unfixed out in the wild or fail in the wild out in the streets. They're going to keep banging, keep having more animals, and we're going to have more animals out there. So it's something that like a lot of these like counties and cities have to help, get help on now, but they're cutting budgets all around, so we probably won't get that much help in there. It's going to be more of a community thing that has to be done. I've seen it a lot in Gerard and Warren. People, a lot of these places like AWL, Angels for Animals, TNR and Warren, like if it's a feral cat, it's only like $20 to get them fixed, which is way cheaper than like a normal like take home cat. Like they don't get like the shots a normal cat will get too, and like a chip, stuff like that. So you can get those services for cheaper, which is nice. What do you think, Tom? You think it's good to get some dogs off the street? Dogs and cats?
Yeah, I think this is good. Like to me, this is just one of those government services that the government just needs to provide. They need to provide it well.
Yep.
We've talked about this in the past, but like this is like what is distinct, with us as people on the left versus people on the right. We believe in the government providing services to people. The Republicans, they don't believe in that. Really, they don't. And one of those services needs to be, we need to take care of the animals. We need to make sure that they're spayed, neutered, that they're all taken care of, that people that abuse animals are put in prison, stuff like that. So yeah, I think this is fantastic. Of course, I have concerns. What's going to happen? With all this, if there's going to be a massive decrease in tax revenue, what's going to happen? But we will have to see. But I'm glad to see that the city of Warren's taking steps in this direction.
Agreed, Tom. And it's just gonna help. Me and Tom are saying, taxes are weird because people want to get rid of property tax. I mean, there's so many services that help you out. We need to get these animals off the street, so your property tax goes towards that. People, you gotta be smarter on that kind of thing. Whole reason why, like, the county and wardens aren't as big as they used to be is because they keep cutting them, cutting funding year by year. So that's why we got the issue we have today. Tommy will be going into our national topic too, which is the State of the Union. I'm gonna grab a glass of water while you start that up, Tommy.
Yeah. Okay, State of the Union. Okay, I actually did not watch the State of the Union. I think I've actually probably watched every State of the Union. Um, besides this one, I may have missed one or two, but I remember very distinctly being in middle school watching the State of the Union. So, but I couldn't do this one, people. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I just, but I did for the show prepare a little thing about some fact checking with the State of the Union. So for context. So NPR published an annotated fact check of Trump's State of the Union, examining his claims on topics like the economy, inflation, trade, immigration, and more. Um, shocker, he's a lying son of a bitch. Like, there you go. Trump claimed inflation and consumer prices were plummeting thanks to its policies. Fact checks knows that while inflation has eased from recent peaks, overall prices remain above pre-pandemic levels and are still increasing, not sharply falling as implied. And this is just something that everybody realizes. You got fucking, you're going out to the store, you're like, why is my loaf of bread $5.99? Why are all my groceries more expensive? And Donald Trump is just essentially trying to gaslight the American people, saying, hey, your groceries are not more expensive. It's like, but eventually, you're gonna get called out on. Um, uh, Trump says the economy is roaring like never before. Data shows that GDP growth slowed under his administration compared with previous years, and unemployment trickled up slightly. Um, Trump said more Americans are working than ever before, which is technically true, but fact checkers noted that population growth accounts for much of the increase. So just a little bit of bait and switch. It's true, more people are working than ever, but population growth, hey, that's me.
We have
That's
more
me. More
people in the
are working than
workforce.
ever. Like actually, why there's more people in the workforce is because like 18 years ago, people decided to have kids. That has nothing to do with you, Dottie. Like, come on. Um, Trump claimed to have secured more than 18 trillion in global investments, while the White House's own figure showed 9.6 trillion in pledges. So with this one, they're wrong by their own numbers. And many of those 9.6 trillion dollars are vague and not materialized. Um, claims about record market gains under Trump were misleading. Markets rose under previous years too, and broad gains don't reflect ownership by most Americans. This is absolutely true. We talk about the stock market every week on this show. That is not a good indicator of the economy. It may be a good indicator of people's 401ks, how the wealthy are doing and stuff. But your average single mom in rural Nebraska who's just trying to take care of her kid, she doesn't have money in the stock market, you know? So it's irrelevant to the health of the economy for a very, very, very large proportion of the American public. So, gas prices. Trump said average prices were below certain historic levels in many states. Fact check showed no U.S. states had average prices as low as claimed at the time of the speech, though some individual stations occasionally dipped lower. And this is another thing, too. Uh, gas prices are about to go way up. you know, that's my prediction, at least. Trump touted the lowest drug costs in the world. Um, So other countries have a system. It's called universal health care, and that's funded through people get their coverage, and it's funded through taxes. So it's a little strange to me saying we have the lowest drug costs in the world. Experts found that evidence don't support such a sweeping claim. Specific discount programs help some prices, but don't make U.S. drug costs the lowest overall. That's a ridiculous claim. I've heard stories for years. I I go up to Canada to get my prescriptions. The price of insulin, used to be outrageous, and I'm sure it's still outrageous for a large proportion of people. But it was Joe Biden who lowered the cost of insulin, for instance. Um, Trump repeated assertions about migrants from prisons or mental institutions and listen, I'm not even gonna talk about this. This is just racist bigotry, you know, that people are not coming in here from mental asylums and from prisons. That's just not true. People that think that's true, they're probably racist. Uh, crime reduction. Um, Trump claimed historic declines in murder rate. Independent data confirms murder rates dropped in 2025, but the trend began earlier. Attributing it directly attributing to his policies is an overstatement not supported by robust analysis. War on fraud. Trump said eliminating fraud could balance the federal budget overnight. Huh? Huh?
Hasn't done it yet. Elon hasn't done it.
Fact check notes that the federal budget deficit are far larger than total estimated fraud losses, making the claim unrealistic. The United States is we're not a corrupt nation in the way like people are siphoning off money from like grants, and stuff like that. The corruption happens in other ways. It's not like money is being like in Russia. Well, there's $2 trillion for our military, and some commander takes 100,000, then the next person takes 100,000. Like that's not how it operates. So, and I think at least that's the sort of level of corruption you would need in the United States to balance the federal budget. It's just simply not true. Just simply not true. Certainly, people make campaign donations and stuff like that, but you know, are they stealing gas out of the pavers? Probably not. you know. Um, Trump said the big beautiful bill eliminated taxes on tip, overtime, and Social Security. Tax breaks are expanded but not total. Many exemptions are phased out with income limits, and many of them are like many of these tax policies are implemented to take place after the midterm elections. Because it could be disastrous for things like rural hospitals, for instance.
Yeah, like most, I saw like some in engineering. Most engineers do not. We make too much money to not get taxed on overtime. Same with nurses.
Yeah,
So most professional fields
right,
that do get paid on overtime. If you're in a
right.
union, if you make, if you're in a trade, you're making over 60, 80 grand a year, 100 grand a year. He screwed you on this one big.
I prefer raising the minimum wage. Versus no tax on tips. I think eliminating the 2 tiers of minimum wage, like, there shouldn't be a tipped and a non-tip minimum wage, I think. Should probably just be 1. Like, to me, that's a lot better of a policy than eliminating tax on tips because tax on tips is open to legitimate fraud. Like, employers might just have all their people work overtime, um, voter fraud rhetoric, all this is not true. Repeated claims about extensive election cheating, requiring new laws. This is not true. This is a made up. This is a made up. This is a made up conspiracy that they're trying to make to justify voter intimidation and um uh undemocratic reforms. They're trying to create a problem to make us less democratic. Um, Many of Trump's statements were technically anchored in real data, but context matters. Numbers were exaggerated or framed in the most favorable way without acknowledging nuances or trends. Many claims were found to be misleading or unsubstantiated, particularly about inflation and investment pledges in the economy. So, bottom line, I'm not even going to read this. Bottom line, our president's a liar. Okay? The State of the Union is not strong. In fact, the State of the Union has never been weaker in my lifetime. I would say probably in the last I don't know. It's been a long time since things have been this bad, but um, things are bad right now. Prices are high for people. We have conflict in the Middle East, and a lie-filled State of the Union was not the right move. It's an insult to the American people. So, what do you have to say, Liam?
Agreed. I heard this was the longest one of all time. I'm not surprised knowing Trump. A lot of BS in there, inaccurate, misleading, and undisturbed claims. Not surprised. I don't get the economy because it's doing so bad right now. I saw a video of it. Excuse me, sorry. This lady called oh God, what's the government like? She called C-SPAN, and she was talking about like how bad she's doing now, and how like all of her, she's like on Social Security, retired, and her snaps is getting less and less food. So it's crazy. He brought out the men's hockey team while he was giving out all these people awards and medals. It was just, to me, kind of crazy. So here's Trump being Trump, just talking a lot. Nothing really, no no good content there. You know what I mean? He hasn't passed an infrastructure bill, hasn't passed his health care bill, hasn't really passed major things. He passed a spending bill, and he has to call that a big beautiful bill, make that a big deal, because it's the only win he can get. Is just like the general budget for every year. So it's just crazy to me how Trump is. He actually has to get something done, because year one he has gotten nothing done besides spend a lot of money and make Americans hate him, realistically, and people from other countries hate him even more with these immigration policies. So
I don't know how someone can just get up on there. Like, maybe it's just because I'm not a psychopath. Like, that's probably it. But, like, he says he's ended 8 new wars. He didn't end any wars. Like,
Yeah.
what? Like, how do you just go up on stage and in front of Congress, like, I ended 8 new wars. I ended 8 wars. But, like, you didn't do anything. Like,
yeah,
it's,
we
it's
won
just
in
not even, like,
eight wars before, and he didn't end any it's just crazy.
it just doesn't make any sense. But, he's not a truthful person. It's just crazy. But, like, it's like, I couldn't give a speech on, like, the sky is red. But, like, for some reason, like, Donald Trump is essentially giving a speech that says the sky is red, and then all the Republicans are like, "Yay! Red sky, climate change."
Yep, it's
Like,
crazy. No, I agree. Like they
I don't know.
they will grasp onto anything because it's just not doing well right now. Nothing's doing well.
Yep, and they have no plans to fix it.
Nope,
But I
nope.
bet they have plans
No
to
good
make it
plans.
worse
They have
and
plans,
steal more
not
money out of the
plans to
economy.
fix
I bet
anything.
they got.
All right, that's really it for us, guys. I hope you enjoyed the content. Make sure you drop a like. If you enjoyed the show, we'll be back here next week at 8:30. We'll have our sports show for Northeast Iowa Sports Show here on Thursday on the Lead Doodle channel. Once again, this was the Week Ahead News Show, episode 52. Good number with me, Liam. Good friend Tommy.
Have a good night, everybody. Thanks for having me, Liam.
Yep, no problem, Tommy. I always appreciate you stopping by. Thank you again. Hope everyone else has a good night, and good night, Ohio.